my ultimate point is that this shows that people aren't unwilling to work. The last year just recalibrated how people see their like autopilot style existence and the trajectory that they're on. So now people are valuing themselves and their time more. And I thought you chimed in with a great response about learning that for yourself in your own career. So I know I'm putting you on the spot, but like, do you remember what you said?
Yeah, basically, I've said that, I came to realize that I had to value my own time, and because it's inevitable. Everyone, at least most of us, have to work in order to live. That's not something that's really debated. But at the same time, you shouldn't have to live to work. Work should not become your life. And I have a lot of good memories from advice that my dad used to give me. My dad's been gone for 8 years now. But one of the things he told me, and this is from the time when, now granted, I first graduated from college from Duquesne University in 2004. I went back in the fall of 2007 because kind of had this epiphany of like, you know what? I'm not where I want to be as far as my career. I want to go do something else. I kind of want to go chase my dream and be in sports media. And I told my parents, and my dad said, good. You're going to work the rest of your life. You might as well do something you enjoy. And that's advice I never forgot. But at the same time, trying to break into this industry, there are a lot of times when you're going to have opportunities, which are good opportunities for you. I won't deny that part. But some of them will be, better paying than others. Some won't pay at all. Some won't pay a lot. And some will eventually with time. But I eventually got into this rhythm over time where, I got my first opportunity in the media realm around 2008. I got my first job with WTAE. I was working there as a digital producer. Eventually moved into a role where I was producing on-air content for the sports department. That led to an opportunity with Hearst, which owns WTAE. I got my first on-air opportunity with their sister station in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and I was there for 2.5 years. Came back to Pittsburgh in 2014 and decided that, I didn't really know what I wanted to do media-wise. I figured I'll get an opportunity somewhere. If not, then I'll try to figure it out as best as I can. Within a month of returning back to Pittsburgh, I had 2 jobs in hand. So it was kind of a crazy situation. So by 2015, by April of 2015, I'm working in radio full time and I'm working in TV part time with KDKA. And it really was a great opportunity. Now you fast forward to 2017, my full-time radio job was gone. I was working radio part-time with a different station. I had started with 93.7 The Fan, working full-time with KDK as a producer, but still doing some part-time work with them too, as far as on-air work is concerned. And then, the play-by-play announcing job started lining up, and I find myself working 4 or 5 different jobs at the same time. And, some paying well, some paying not so well. And I remember a day specifically, or I should say a weekend specifically. I want to say it was either 2018 or 2019. I can't remember the year exactly, but it was right after I started working at Duquesne, doing play-by-play and color commentary for men's and women's basketball. Well, it just so happens I had a weekend where I was anchoring, the sports segment for KDK TV on a Saturday night. So I was doing the 6 o'clock news, 7 o'clock news. I think back then I started doing the 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock nightly sports call, 10:35 on Pittsburgh CW. And then the next morning, I was hosting my radio show on 93.7 The Fan at 7 a.m. So for those who aren't familiar, the 11 o'clock news ends at 11:35. So I'd have to go home, try to get some sleep, be up between 5 and 5:30 a.m. to go do a radio show at 7. I think I did that from 7 to 11 a.m. I leave the radio station at 11 a.m. I'm headed over to Duquesne because I got a 1:30 tip-off or 2 o'clock tip-off for a basketball game at the Palumbo Center that afternoon. I did all this on maybe 4 hours of sleep. Back then, I saw it as a badge of honor because I was like, I'm the guy that could do everything. I could do TV, I could do radio, I could do play-by-play, whatever. But the fact that I did it in 24 hours, it felt like a badge of honor at the time. When it was all over, I got home and I told my wife, I was like, I don't want to do anything else. I don't want to talk. I just want to sleep and let my brain reboot. Because people think, oh, you're just sitting there talking. How tiring can it be? When your brain is firing the way it has to, when you're doing each of those jobs separately, much less all in the same 24-hour span, it uses a lot of brain power, more than you probably bargained for. But by then, I'm like, I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to talk. I'm done. I'm done talking for the day.
Well,
At the time, it felt like.
that's
at
kind
the
of
time.
something that I want to ask you about, because I never really, I'm somebody that just absolutely cannot function without sleep. So whenever it comes to like grind time, it like doesn't really work for me. I can't do the overtime thing. If you get me on 2 days where it's less than maybe 6 hours of sleep, I'm done ski. I'm useless to everybody. But like I don't know. Talk to me about like your sleep and like what your relationship with it is, because like you obviously need to like feel on whenever you're going to be on air, or like whenever you're going to be calling a game or something like that. Like, so what is your relationship with sleep now? And of course that like obviously includes being a father, a new father at that.
My relationship with sleep currently is not where it should be. I'll say that much. Just father to a 9-week-old baby. My wife and I are both trying to adjust with it. Um, but generally speaking, I got this question a couple of different times where I'm maybe speaking to students in different classes and done kind of a mini university circuit in the Pittsburgh area. And someone asked me, "What's your favorite thing to do when you're not working?" And my easiest response is sleeping, easily sleeping, because it's probably the one thing that's the hardest to come by. And for a good 2-year period of my life, probably 2017 to 2018, I wasn't sleeping a lot. So the few pockets that I had, I was shutting everything down. And you're right. When you're in front of that camera, when you're behind the microphone, when you got a headset on, you have to be as sharp as you can possibly be. And I'll admit, there's days when I was not my sharpest, and my performance reflected it. And it was one of those things. It's like, you know, there's one thing where you're having just basic human error, and then there's another thing where your brain is just on autopilot and you don't remember a lot of things that happen because you're that tired or because you're just that mentally worn down. And that scared me, because there were times I'd maybe watch something back from, the night before. I'd maybe look at one of the Duquesne games or maybe the highlights that they post on their social media account or on YouTube. And there was stuff I would legitimately forget saying, or I'd listen maybe to some of the clips played back from the radio show, and there was stuff I would legitimately forget from the day before, from that day. And I'm going, man, I'm killing myself here, and I don't remember a lot of what's happening, and it doesn't feel like it's worth it. So after about 2018, maybe going into 2019, I was really having this battle with myself. Like, I really need to just reassess what I'm doing here and reassess, just how much my time is being doled out. Because, not to mention, by the end of 2018, going into 2019, I'm also driving the cab just to try to, make extra ends meet, because I'm trying to fill a lot of gaps here. And it was to the point where I would literally work one job, get in the cab, work a shift, or maybe work a few hours, or maybe work a shift and come home, sleep a little bit, and get ready to go to the next job. And it's like, this is not how this was supposed to be. This is not how this was structured to be. And it kind of caused a mini freak out in my mind. And I had to reassess and say, look, this is where I start having to draw the line between when I'm available, when I'm not available. And I got to start looking out for myself, because I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't healthy. My weight had fluctuated really, really badly. I was the heaviest I'd ever been. There was a day when my mom looked me in the face and she goes, "You don't look well. You need to go to the doctor." And in my family, granted, I'm the youngest in my family of all my siblings, but I was the
I
athlete
get
of the
that.
family. Yeah, you definitely know. I was the athlete of the family. I was the one that was usually the healthiest. I was one that was probably in, the best shape comparatively, because I was used to just being active and doing a bunch of different stuff. And to be in that situation where my mom is worried about my health because she says, "You don't look good," that really scared the crap out of me. I think the next day I called my doctor's office, made an appointment, went and talked to the doctor, and we put a plan together of just what I needed to do differently. And it really just centered around taking better care of myself. And once I started on that plan, it just got stronger and stronger over time. And, it kind of, in a weird sort of way, it kind of kicked up a notch, during the pandemic, because March of 2020, I get a phone call from one job, and I get emails from another job, and I get text message from boss another job saying, "Hey, they're shutting just about every sport down. So we don't have anything for you to do." So for 4 months, I'm at home with my wife, who eventually had become pregnant. And it was actually an eye opener, because I had nowhere to go. It wasn't like I was going out a lot. I had nowhere to be. So I was actually sleeping on a very healthy schedule. I was getting 8 hours a night, not thinking twice about it. Paying more attention to what I eat, because it's not like we were eating out all the time. So we weren't trying to spend a bunch of money. So we were smarter in our food choices. I dropped 30 pounds in about 4 months. I was the healthiest I'd been probably since I was in college. And it really kind of recalibrated things in my mind, where I'm thinking, man, none of this stuff ever really matters by comparison. And don't get me wrong, I'm very passionate about what I do. I'm passionate about every facet of my career. But at the same time, I value my health, because when you've had good health for so long, the moment it starts to become threatened, even for a minute, you kind of kick back into, okay, this is not what I'm used to. But on top of that, having my wife getting pregnant and the journey that we were having, trying to have a child, it's just like, there's certain things that are just more important. And me being here for my son is one of those things. And just me being here for my wife to get through that journey for my son to get here was one of those things. So it really just totally re-racked everything in my mind. So by the end of the summer, when I do have the opportunity to go back to work, both in TV and in radio, I started being more selective about, okay, I can work this day, but I can't work this day. I can work this shift, but I can't work this one because, these things are too close together, or I'll be gone from home too long, or I'll be working too long. And part of it is for my wife's own sanity. So she has me around the house and I'm not gone for hours at a time all day. But another part of it is it protects me too, because I can actually go in, do X, Y, and Z. And when my day is done, I can go home and relax and get sleep and rest, because I'm no good to anybody if I'm not running on all cylinders. And that's as a TV anchor, that's as a radio host, that's as a play-by-play announcer, that's as a public speaker, which is kind of another layer I've added onto the 7-layer, Rachel Green, dip, if you will. And it just, all that stuff adds up. And if you're not taking care of yourself, you're really not any use to anybody, which is really what I came down to. So when I saw the post that you had up on LinkedIn, I'm like, it hit hard with me, because I know exactly what that's like. I know what it's like to have the job that's not paying you a lot. So you have to pick up maybe a second, or in some cases, a third job, trying to make things work. I've been there. I've been there way too recently to understand what that's like. And I just listed all this stuff that I've been doing for all this time, but that's still a reality for me, even in my own experience. So when I hear people talking about how some folks aren't willing to work for it, or weren't willing to do this, and my first response is always the same. It's not that they're not willing to go to work. It's not that people aren't willing to try to earn a living. It's just that they're not willing to do it at their own expense anymore, because I'm in that boat. And as much as I love my career, I'm not willing to chase it at my own expense anymore, because what good is my career if I can't have a decent quality of life?